Hey, Jan,
I looked in.
there's Ben.
That's where he sits.
There he is.
What?
That's his uniform. Yep.
That's his uniform.
Well, that's where the
Oh, Ben, it's a
and
me.
the other one is in the middle, and that controls the RPM and the pitch of the rotor.
That was the day I was out there at
He actually does two things.
Texas the day he graduated.
And it's the propeller.
At basic, when he graduated basic?
He came in as nothing, zero,
Right.
and made an officer.
That is something. That is,
He wanted to fly.
yeah.
He just wanted to fly, and that was it. He had a pilot's license for civilian too.
Helicopter pilot.
When he got out, he was going to fly
Helicopters, we said they don't
private planes for guys. He had it all set.
You prefer to talk inside? If you do, we'll go ahead and get set up in there. It's up to you.
It's probably better for the people.
Inside?
Yeah, I would think.
There you go. All right.
Wouldn't it be? I think.
Did the other group get out?
Yeah, they're done.
Oh, okay,
All right.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
let me.
watch.
I'm gonna go in and get the camera set up.
Come on, you need
Okay.
Okay, honey.
Yeah, just watch your head when you're going up. I always tell people that, and then on the way out, I always bang my head on the top. But yeah, just watch your head on the top of that door.
Yeah, we're gonna have you guys now.
Oh, I looked inside there too a little
We'll
bit.
look at that on the way out, but you want to go to the right and go to the back.
He said they were taking some guys over to Syria, Marines.
Yeah,
They're all sitting here and there,
yeah.
along there. And he had to stand on the guy's shoulder to fix something up there.
Gee.
From Istanbul to, where the hell I come in at? Tansen New Air Base.
Oh, cool.
In Saigon.
In Saigon.
Yeah, just below Saigon.
I was there for 6 months.
Tansen New Air.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Just before you go into the Delta.
Yep.
Okay.
Comfy?
Now get me out of here.
I'm thinking about that.
I'll push you, you pull me.
That's one thing I like to show everybody when I get them on here is how luxurious military airplanes are.
Yeah, right,
Believe me.
right.
Was it 17,000 miles? From
Oh, over to
to Saigon?
Vietnam. Yeah, yeah,
17,000 miles.
yeah.
I used to stand for
Exactly. And so these are the two most comfortable seats in the.
Well, that's your flight
And that's for the crew. That's for the guys in the back, and then the pilot and the co-pilot and the navigators sit up in the front, and up those stairs.
Did you want to share about your nephew?
Yeah, okay. Well, this is a plane that my nephew flew on. I told you that I've been on at least 4 times. And he had 18 years in the Air Force. He came up from being I don't know, what they call in the Air Force, a private. And he went to officer school and he became a pilot. He has a pilot license too, and a navigator. And he made, it's on the papers I gave you guys, how many combat missions he made. And like he told the family that he was going here or there when he'd be over the house on leave or something. And I would just shake my head and go, yeah, right. He'd tell me he was in Kuwait or someplace. He was in Syria. He was in Afghanistan. And then the one day he was over, I was cooking Wiener Schnitzel for him. And he said, I got to show you something. So he pulled out his phone and showed me. And in here were missiles in there they were delivering. And they delivered, I shouldn't say it that way, but Band-Aids, all that type of stuff, food. And remember, they're unarmed. That was the bad part. And they had missile attacks on them and everything. They made it through, but it's a wonder that they got outmaneuvered. With this plane especially, outmaneuver anything. It's kind of like a sitting duck, And it was his thing to fly, and that was it. And he just made up his mind, and then he had a commanding officer that was a woman, and he finally kept talking to her, and she finally said, okay. Then he went through all, well, he knows the gig on that.
Right, on,
Yeah, all the schooling you take,
Oh, yeah,
escape and evasion and everything else, and
Officer
plus
training
flying
school.
the whole bit. He did, and he just loved it. He was a born pilot, is what he was. He'd still be flying, you know, I know that. I mean, he'd probably be in civilian life now. He'd have over 20, and he had a job waiting for him to fly out of Myrtle Beach, of all places, and private, you know, to the islands and all that. He had a whole job set up for him that, but I don't know how many, I have it at home, I should have brought it. I don't know how many medals he received, but he had tons. And he had a lot of backing. His sister was an Army nurse, 20 years retired. She took care of all the amputees coming back in Washington. She had his other sister, the baby, she had 8 or 9 years in the Air Force, and she was going to re-up, or she spent 9 months in Afghanistan in combat. She came back a different girl, obviously, and they told her, well, if you re-up, you're going to be deployed again. She says, I'm out. So she wanted to stay so bad, but she said, I'm not going to be deployed again. I can't. So that's the history of that part of the family. And I just know that he'd like to be standing here right now. And I support him, like I told him. When they were overseas and that, I sent those guys beef jerky, boxes of it. So when they're up flying, they had something, you know, to eat and that. And he landed. He got a kick out of landing three different times in Ramstein Air Force Base in Kaiserslautern, and that's where I was for 31 months. And but we got in the same places at different times. And all I can say is he was a great kid.
Did you share notes on the places that you both were at? Did you discuss what the bases were like that you both were at?
I sent him down Mannheimer Strasse, which is outside of the gates of Landstuhl Ramstein. And I told him to go down around Flocke Rondell, where the Opera House is, and about 6 blocks, you can see the clock tower, and that's where I was. It was an old Nazi barracks. When I got there during the occupation, they had just chiseled the swastikas out. Mm-hmm. So they left everything else, you know. Yeah. And he went around Kaiserslautern, and I got some pictures, and it not like when I was there. It's completely changed now. I see it on there, and everything there's changed. But Landstuhl Ramstein, I guess, is just exactly the way it was. And of course, the planes are a lot newer. And I telling him that he never got to any of the bases in France because there weren't any more. And then they pulled all them out, and that's where I worked in the summer. But that's beside the point. It was about him being here, and he said he used to load this plane up with Marines, and haul them out. And there they go. And the same thing when I was in Germany. I watched them load up the Marines, throw them in trucks, take them to the Bahnhof, send them out to the airport, and off they go. But I don't think things changed too much. And at his funeral, as you'll see on there, there's a 2-star general, a 1-star general, 170 personnel, Air Force, and then of course he was a biker, a Harley guy, and there was 100 and some of those guys there.
Wow.
And it was in November. It was like a 500-foot ceiling, and we're out at this cemetery, and they were supposed to have a flyover. And I said, my two sons were saying, I said, I don't think they can fly. I said, 500-foot ceiling. This plane, not 500 feet, they got to be up a little bit. And all of a sudden we heard the roar. Here they come. They were grounded, but these pilots took off. And well, that's about it. He just loved the Air Force. What can I say? And the main thing was I'm glad he did what he did. He didn't tell the family that he was in harm's way. Only a dummy like me would know that. That's about it. Huh? Yeah.
Me too.
Did the family ever find out what he had been awarded the 3 air medals for?
The 3? Yeah, I got it at home. I know it was one time was over in Afghanistan, and the other 2 times on Syria. Because he showed me on his phone, he was in Syria, and he said, now watch the phone. He said, here comes the plane. It was C-130, and it's coming down the runway. It was just like red dirt, like somewhere down south here or something, you know, the red dirt and all that.
Yeah.
He said, watch the propellers coming down, and they were like solid white color. I said, why are they white? He says, no, it's a moisture. It's all moisture on them. He said, and he told me about Syria. It wasn't even safe to be on the ground there, much less, you know, in the air.
It still isn't.
You know, and I know on R&R once, when he was in over in Afghanistan, he went on they took him on a donkey thing, and he got to be out there where the people were and that. He said he was just glad he didn't live there, you know. And but I think that's about it. I don't know. Maybe I'll get that listed. I'll send it down to you, Deb. Yeah, Deb. I'll send it down to you as soon as I get it. If I can, I think there's a little book on him. I'll call his sister, the Army nurse, and have her send me one, and I'll send it down here to you. And I don't know. He had many rows. I don't know. And he used to come over and he explained all the different schools that he went to about escape and invasion, which was interesting. He said, you go into a pool, and all of a sudden this canvas comes down over the whole thing, and you got to get out. And he said he had to do that twice, and all this other, you know, it was interesting stuff, you know, I learned in that. And but he's always a cheerful guy, you know, and everybody liked him.
Well, you mentioned that he suggested the Marines or the Army, and
Well,
you talked him out of that. How did that happen?
The thing that happened, Ben had called his sister when she was in Washington taking care of the people that were injured and all that. And he told her, he said, you know, I'm thinking about going in the Marines. And his sister said, wait a minute. I got a guy right here in a wheelchair in front of me. He wants to talk to you. So he put him on. And he says, look, I've got one arm and one leg left. You want to be a Marine? You don't want to be like me. Don't. I told him probably the wrong thing, but I told him don't be a Marine. I mean, Marine training is one thing. Won't mention it, but one thing. And my best friend who I work with the veterans, he didn't come with us today. He's a Marine. Believe me, He's a Marine, ask his wife.
Then,
Once a Marine, always a Marine. And I mentioned that somebody passed away. I said, you know, he was a Marine. He said, no, he wasn't. He said, he is a Marine.
Still a Marine.
Yeah, so whatever. So I told Ben, I said, if that's what you want, you know, I said, that's what it is. So he said, and I told him about, he always said to me, well, you're an Army guy. What about the Army? I said, no, I'm older and wiser now. I'm older and wiser. I said, just go and get yourself nice uniforms, nice dry barracks, good food. I said, believe me, I ate at those mess halls. Way better food. And we ate off plates. What really bothered me in Germany, in France, they ate off plates, said U.S. Army, China. And I'm eating off a tin tray and a plastic tray in Germany. So I told him, just go in the Air Force.
That's why I went in the Air Force. I lived in Vietnam. I lived in a 2-story air-conditioned building with maid service. So
A little story on the side about my other friend, good friend. He was in Vietnam, and his brother was in Vietnam. His brother was a Marine. He was back at the Air Force Base. So he only had one hit over there. They hit him with rockets one day, and that was it. All the time he was there. So his brother went for R&R, the Marine. They said, where do you want to go? You want to go to Japan? You want to go here? You know, no, I want to go see my brother. You want to stay in country? He said, yes, I want to stay in country. Okay, so he gets up there in country. He sees his brother. His brother takes him over to his building. You sleep in a bed with sheets?
yeah.
I'm sleeping in a ditch with snakes and everything else. And people are shooting at me. He says, and you're here like this, and you got a mess hall and everything? He said, oh my God. So they go over to the mess hall. And the mess hall in the Air Force, I had a problem with it. I was a sergeant, and I had my crew. I had to go eat in a separate line because I was an SFC. And my crew were only up to corporals. And I said, I sleep and eat and everything. These are my guys. Nope, that's it. But then they charged me 10 cents for a meal, but that was okay. So he gets there with his brother, and they get up to the door, and he was a sergeant, and his brother wasn't. So he said, Sergeant, you're going to have to go down there and eat. He said, no, I'm going to eat with my brother. That's what I came here for. So he saw the guy, you know, he had a shoulder holster on. He said, with a 45. He said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go and eat with my brother. He says, if you want to take that gun out and shoot me, do it, because I want to get out of here anyhow. That's a funny, not a funny story, but that's another military story with just to show you between the Marines and the Army and the Air Force. Go Air Force. The only other story in the Air Force is a good one. My uncle was in the Army Air Force, Germany. He flew L5s, reconnaissance for Patton. Patton was his boss. My uncle got shot down over there 3 times. Wound up in a prisoner of war camp for 9 months. Ankle shot out and that. And so he was Air Force. And he told me when I was going in the Air Force. And at that time I said, well, look, I don't think I want to go in the Air Force. He said, well, you don't have to be a pilot like me. And actually, my uncle in pilot training, there was a kid in there with him. And his father was a lieutenant colonel or a colonel. And he pulled the kid out of there. The kid was going to go into B-17 bombers. His old man pulled him out. He said, go liaison, you stay alive longer.
Yeah.
You know, okay,
Yeah, I think we have some tours
Okay,
coming in.
done.
So.
thank you.
Thank you.
It's getting a little warm in here.